The reading is from Isaiah 40, 12 to the end of the chapter. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breath of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him? And who taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge, or showed him the path of understanding? Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust. Lebanon is not sufficient for altar fires, nor its animals enough for burnt offerings. Before him, all the nations are as nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. With whom then will you compare God? To what image will you liken him? For an idol, a metal worker casts it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold. And fashions silver chains for it. A person too poor to present such an offering selects wood that will not rot. They look for a skilled worker to set up an idol that will not topple. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground than he blows on them and they wither. Like a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord? My cause is disregarded by my God. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary. His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary. Young men will stumble and fall, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint.
Thank you, Amy. So I think you've already had the warning that we're talking about buckets today. And I have a bucket full of water here just to help us focus. So, yeah, we're looking at buckets. Now, I'm going to start with a story because we always like a story. I had a shocking conversation with Lisa recently. I was talking with her through what I was talking about this morning, a couple of weeks ago now. And I started telling her this story, and she went, "Oh, Adam, you know no one thinks any of these stories actually happen to you. You know they think you make them all up." And I was like, how could you think that? These are all true stories that have happened to me. And I think these sorts of things happen to everyone, I think, in their life. It's just maybe I've got a better memory than most. I don't know what it is. But when I was 12, this is the bit where Lisa went, "No, Adam." When I was 12, I was involved in a ship crash with a nuclear waste ship. And Lisa just went, "Adam, I'm not going to believe you." But it's true. Look, this was the report. When I was 12, we went on a holiday. We would go on holiday as a church. and to this place in Germany. And every time we would go, something would happen. We would miss the ferry, or we'd be really late for the ferry, or they'd have to. One time they got the ferry to actually pull back in. It had already started leaving the dock, and they got it to pull back in because this big party had arrived to get on the ferry. I don't think they do that these days, but there was always something would happen. And I remember this was our ferry back on the way home, and this was the ferry back, and everyone was kind of talking and kind of going, well, nothing's gone wrong. That is weird. Like, nothing's happened. But obviously we thought nothing of it. And people are all around different. It was a very nice ferry. It was quite a long ferry ride. It wasn't just Dover to Calais. It was somewhere to Sheerness or something in Belgium. And I can't quite remember the route, but it was quite long. So it was a nice ferry. It had a swimming pool in it. It had lovely restaurants in it. And it had a lovely 12-year-old boy. I was in the arcade because where else would a 12-year-old boy be? And it was a great it was a great ship. It was very cool. There was lots to do and there was lots to see. And what none of us expected was it would come to a dramatic, sudden stop as it hit this other ship. So various things happened. I was in the arcade, and I got thrown across the arcade into a machine. There were some other people in the arcade. I don't know whether it was someone got thrown into a machine which caused all the money to come out, or it was just the timing that they just won a lot of money. But they weren't going anywhere despite the alarms because they were trying to scoop up all the money from the machine before they went anywhere. But the sirens are going, and it's like going, and suddenly it's kind of going, please, the sirens going, I can't remember the exact words, but it's kind of going, everyone needs to assemble on deck, get life jackets, whatever. So it's this big thing. And I heard stories. My brother apparently was in the swimming pool and suddenly wasn't in the swimming pool. Suddenly he was sat on the side. And so then he needed to get out. There were a group of them who were in the restaurant, and their meals went flying across the restaurant, which for most of them was enough to say something's wrong here. But apparently one of them went and collected their meal off the floor, went back and sat down and carried on eating. Anyway, there was lots of funny things. So yeah, we were kind of ran up onto the deck, and there's this huge ship hanging off the end of our ship, and there's a giant hole in the side which you can see. Being a 12-year-old boy, at some point, because we were in this position for about 5 hours, me and my friend Andrew, we managed to get to that hole and look inside the other ship before we got shouted at by a bunch of people and told to clear off. Apparently not safe. But what we didn't understand at that point was it was French. It was a French ship carrying nuclear uranium to Russia. So yeah, not the safest place to go exploring as a 12-year-old boy. There were people, no one on the ferry was overboard, but there were people from the other ship that were overboard. There was Air Sea Rescue in the Royal Navy was there. There were other ferries had come around. There were tugboats. There was the French Navy. There was a lifeguard. Helicopters overhead. And suddenly we were realizing, oh, this is quite a thing. But how have two ships managed to crash in the middle of the sea? You see them coming, they're not fast, right? And apparently, it turns out it was the French captain's fault because they had set their alarms to 4 kilometers, not wherever it should be, or something like that. And so, people saw this thing happening, and no one could quite believe it was going to happen. But there we were. We crashed, and when we eventually got to England, my dad was asked to go into London to the Daily Mail to do an interview because there was this church party who were on the ship and whatever. And so he and our worship leader went in and did this interview while I sat in the car on Fleet Street with all these people, London going by. And it was all very exciting. And I remember that my dad got really upset because our worship leader said, oh, we went into this area and we were singing songs as a church. And he said, oh, what songs did you sing? He said, oh, we will enter your gates with thanksgiving in our hearts. And my dad was frustrated that he told them this because it sounded a bit fatalistic. He's like, well, we shouldn't be singing about going to heaven. We should be singing songs of greater hope than that. But anyway, my dad got upset about all sorts of different things. So that was one of his little quirks. So yeah, I was in this ship crash. But the question is, in an ocean that spreads across the world of 139.5 million square miles, how did two ships manage to not miss each other? Like, the sea is big. The ocean's big. And yet, they manage to hit each other. It seems odd to me. Do you know the longest mountain range on Earth is entirely submerged in the ocean? Like, the ocean's big. Sometimes when I fly to these various places, I sit in an aeroplane traveling at about 600 miles an hour, and I can be over the ocean for 7, 8, 9 hours at a time. I'm just going, what the heck? How are we still over the ocean? Like, how big is this thing? It's big. Do you know we've only explored 5% of the entire ocean? That's Rachel doing her bit. But we've only explored 5% of the ocean. Isn't that staggering? It's believed we've only discovered 9% of the species that exist in the ocean. It seems odd to me. We have a better mapping of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. Does that surprise you? That surprises me. We have this vast ocean and almost entirely unexplored. There's so much more for us to learn, for us to experience, for us to discover. At the same time, in this cup of water, glass of water that's down here, there are more atoms in that glass of water than there are glasses of water in the entire ocean. That's mind-blowing as well. Over 50% of the Earth's oxygen comes from the ocean. We kind of rely on it. It's like the heartbeat of the world. 71% of the Earth is covered by water, which is fascinating because that's a similar percentage. We are about 70% water. And our blood is a 98% match to seawater. Like, we are linked. We are tied into this ocean which is out there, and yet we know so little about it. Do you know, many of you will resonate with this. If you go to the coast and you look out over the ocean, our physiology changes. Our mind, our brain waves change their rhythm. Our body adjusts. Unless you have a phobia, and then, well, it still adjusts, it just goes the other way. But it's like we are so linked, connected into this thing called the ocean. And it is so vast, and yet we know so little about it. In Psalm 104, it says this: "You placed the world on its foundation, so it would never be moved. You clothed the earth with floods of water, water that covered even the mountains. At your command, the water fled. At the sound of your thunder, it hurried away. Mountains rose and valleys sank to the levels you decreed. Then you set a firm boundary for the seas so they would never again cover the earth. O Lord, what a variety of things you have made. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Here is the ocean, vast and wide, teeming with life of every kind, both large and small. See the ships sailing along, and Leviathan, which you made to play in the sea." And then there's this fascinating conversation in Job, between God and Job. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth, says God? Tell me, if you know so much, who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? What supports its foundations, and who laid its cornerstone as the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it bursts from the womb? And as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness, for I locked it behind barred gates, limiting its shores. I said, this far and no farther will you come. Here your proud waves must stop. There are these scriptures which are reaching for an idea of the vastness of the ocean and of the vastness of God, of the scale of God, of the authority of God, of the power of God. And we're trying to use words to capture something that is just unfathomable. And Job and God are in this conversation, and Job's arguing with God, why are you allowing these things to happen to me? Why must I suffer like that? He's going, well, hold on a minute. Let's understand what's going on here. Did you fill the oceans? Did you stretch the canopy of the skies? Did you put the boundaries on the ocean of here and no further? And Job ends with this fascinating passage. He says, before my ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Before my ears had heard of you, I'd heard rumor of you. I thought I understood you. I knew about you. I had some knowledge of you. Second hand, third hand, I kind of had an idea of who you might be. But now my eyes have seen. Now I have experienced you. Is God a God we know about? Or is God a God we have seen, we have experienced? Is God a God that we know? This scripture that was read beautifully, Isaiah 40. And it says here, who else has held the oceans in his hand? Who has measured off the heavens with his fingers? Who else knows the weight of the earth, or has weighed the mountains and the hills on a scale? Who is able to advise the Spirit of the Lord? Who knows enough to give him advice or teach him? Has the Lord ever needed anyone's advice? Does he need instruction about what is good? Did someone teach him what is right, or show him the path of justice? No, for all the nations of the world are but a drop in the bucket. We are at a point in this series on our 1010 vision. We are exploring, trying to understand the big story, the big narrative. Who is God? God is this God of love who pursues us. God is this God of love who is for us, who will not give up on us, who desires relationship with us. A God who is expansive and loving and abundant and gracious and merciful and relentless. A God who draws us into relationship, a God who can be known and who can be trusted and can be experienced intimately, despite the vastness of him. And we're at this point where I want us to talk a little bit. We're going to spend a few over the coming weeks looking at kind of some of how we understand the Ten Commandments, what the Ten Commandments show us about who God is and who we are and who we're created to be, and how does this work. And the first commandment is, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. We have history together. You shall have no other gods before me. The thing with the commands is we read them as commandments, as instructions. And it feeds, if you remember, if we go way back, that sort of legalistic mindset. But actually God is relational, he's not legalistic. And remember, we've talked about how the law is always about liberation. So we're going to be exploring, we'll do some early work on this today, and then we'll explore it a bit more in a couple of weeks. How this command is actually about the liberation. What does this liberate us from? This idea that there is one God who is over all things. For a people that are serving a myriad of gods, each responsible for its own area. For people who are trying to placate and pacify a myriad of gods, try and keep them all happy so they will do the things that they want that God to do for them. And God says, no, there is one God. I am not a myriad of gods. I am one God over everything. And I desire to be in relationship with you. You don't need any other gods other than me. Everything you are, everything you're created to be, everything you need is in me, is from me, is through me, is to you. This is what this command is about. So you might wonder why we've got a bucket on the stage with water in it. And we're going to step briefly into some philosophy. Because, we've all got energy on a Sunday morning for a bit of philosophy. So, if I was to throw this bucket into the ocean, is the bucket in the ocean, or is the ocean in the bucket? You might wonder why this matters. But I think it helps our understanding of God. You see, it is true that the ocean is in the bucket. If the bucket's in the ocean, there is ocean in the bucket. It's true. And it's an important truth when it comes to how we understand God, because I think we can very often have an idea of God that God's there, up there somewhere, a God that we might pray to or cry out to from time to time, but there's a bit of a distance that needs to be bridged. There's a bit of a space that needs to be covered. Like we need to appeal to this God in some way. That's the Egyptian mentality of God. That's how the world, or humanity, often thinks about God. But there's this reality, no, the scriptures are really clear. God is within us. God's breath is within us. The fact that we exist, the fact that you have breath is from God, is the evidence of God. In the scriptures, in these Hebrew scriptures, right at the beginning, it says that God breathed into Adam and he had life. Our life, scientifically, we have no idea how we're alive. It's one of the great scientific mysteries. We don't really understand it. All these atoms that choose to be us, not one of them is alive. Yet whilst those atoms choose to be us, we are alive. It's a great mystery. We haven't figured it out. The life that we have is evidence of God within us. God is love. Our capacity to love is from him and through him. If you love somebody, it is evidence of God's existence within your being. The New Testament talks about this idea that everything is from God and through God and for God, that everything holds its existence together in him, that all the atoms are held together, these atoms that have no life in them, yet whilst they are held together to be you, you have life. The scriptures point to this idea that is the evidence of God intricately and intimately woven into your being. This idea that God holds us in existence in his hands, that God is in everything and through everything. All things are held together in him. We all carry that divine spark. We are all image bearers of the divine. God is in us and through us. Are you imaginative? God is the God of imagination. Are you creative? Well, God is the creator God. Do you feel alive when you're generous? When you give? Does it bring you joy? Well, God is the abundant God of blessing who creates us to be conduits of his blessing into all creation. God is within us, every one of us. It's a profound, beautiful truth. Is the ocean in the bucket? Yes, and amen. But it's a much bigger truth that the bucket's in the ocean. Yeah, the ocean's in the bucket. But what bigger truth is it that the bucket's in the ocean? That God is so vast and so abundant, we could explore him every day of our lives and we would never find the edges. we could dive into new aspects of God. 5% of our oceans have been explored. Can you imagine what's in the other 95%? There is a fraction of the ocean in the bucket. Can you imagine what's in the rest of that ocean? There is a fraction of God that exists within us. Can you imagine what mysteries and beauty and wonder is in the vastness of this God who holds everything together? I tried to find a license-free picture. You know that T-shirt that has a picture of the universe and then a little "you are here" like tucked off to the side where Earth is? I couldn't find a licensable image of it, so I couldn't use it. But it's that sort of, like, this God is so vast. But I think we settle sometimes, don't we, for the ocean that's in the bucket. We settle for our experience, our understanding of God. We don't really like to think about the vastness that's beyond, how small our experience or our vastness of God might be compared to the entirety of who God is. So we settle for the ocean in the bucket. Sometimes we don't even like to think of the bucket in the ocean. Sometimes we like to think of ourselves as buckets, just being carried around with us. And if God could just keep filling us up from time to time, that would be great. And, we might spill over the sides a little bit. If we're in a hurry and we're rushing, like some water might spill over the side. And that's great because that will bless other people and that will be lovely. And we kind of think that maybe we're just going around protecting the water in our bucket, hoping to be topped up from time to time. When in reality, we're a bucket that has the ocean in it, but we're bobbing around, or we're submerged, entirely consumed by the vastness of who God is, that is beyond our comprehension, that is beyond our understanding. Is the ocean in the bucket, or is the bucket in the ocean? Yeah, they're both true. But what a bigger truth that our bucket is in this vast, beautiful ocean. Psalm 139, it says, "I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me and your strength will support me." There is nowhere we can go to escape the blessing and the presence and the life and the wonder and the mystery of God. Before, we might have heard rumor of God. God might be someone or something that we know about or we've heard of. But the invitation is to know God, not just know about God. The invitation is to be immersed and submerged and overwhelmed and consumed by the vast experience of God who wants to be known by you, who desires relationship with us above everything. Have we settled for the water that's in our bucket? Have we settled for our small experience and understanding of God? Or are we prepared to explore the depths and the mysteries of God? It's a kid's song, isn't it? Have we made our God too small, too small? Have we settled for the water that's in our bucket? Or are we prepared to be people who dive in to the vastness, the unexplored depths of the divine? May we be people who fully experience the presence of God within us, who fully know the beauty and life that we have in him, but who don't settle for our own known experience or known understanding. May we be people who dive into the depths, who explore the vast mysteries of our God. May we be people who go deep to plumb the depths of who God is, of his love, of his mercy, of his grace, of his wonder, of his truth. May we be people who never settle for the water in our buckets. Amen.